The cold fluorescent lights of the grocery store felt harsher than usual that evening, as if they were exposing every weakness, every fear, every fragile thread holding her life together. Sarah stood frozen in front of the dairy section, clutching a small basket that held nothing more than a loaf of bread, 2 apples, and a carton of milk she already knew she couldn't afford. Her chest felt tight, her vision warm with the sting of humiliation, and her mind kept replaying the same question she had been forcing herself to confront for weeks. Rent or food? Shelter or survival? Her hands trembled as she glanced at the prices again, whispering in her heart that maybe hunger would be easier than homelessness. Little did she know, a stranger a few aisles away had already noticed the quiet collapse in her eyes. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and humanity, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It truly helps these stories reach more hearts. Sarah had never imagined her life would shrink down to such impossible decisions. Just a year ago, she was living in a modest apartment in Ohio, working as a school receptionist, providing a simple but stable life for her 10-year-old son, Aaron. But when the school closed due to restructuring and her position was terminated without warning, the security she once took for granted cracked open beneath her feet. The small savings she had slowly drained away as she struggled to stay afloat, and jobs in her town felt like dried leaves slipping away in the wind, promised but never given. When her landlord posted a notice on her door reminding her the rent was already late, Sarah understood that she had reached the edge of something terrifying. She tried everything: extra babysitting hours, cleaning houses, applying to every job she could find within an hour's drive, but each month seemed to end with more bills than hope. Tonight was supposed to be simple, just a quick stop to buy the bare minimum for Aaron's school lunches. But standing here, her fingers gripping the plastic handle of the basket, Sarah felt like a failure, as though every passing shopper could see the exhaustion in her posture and the fear she tried so desperately to hide. She slowly approached the self-checkout station, hoping to get in and out before her courage dissolved completely. The store felt colder as she stepped forward, her mind racing through numbers. The $35 she had, the $60 she needed, the $800 rent she couldn't pay. She scanned the bread, then the apples, each beep echoing like a reminder of what she lacked. When she reached the milk, her hand paused. Her throat tightened. She knew she couldn't cover it all. She forced herself to breathe and removed the milk from the basket, placing it aside. Her son loved milk. She whispered an apology in her heart and kept scanning. Behind her, a man named Jason stood in line, holding nothing but a pack of pasta and a jar of sauce. He wasn't particularly paying attention at first, just another quick grocery run after finishing a long day at work. But then he saw the woman's hands. They weren't just tired, they were shaking with the effort of holding herself together. Her shoulders were tense, her breath uneven, and the moment she set the milk aside, something inside Jason paused. He had seen that gesture before, years ago, when his own mother struggled after his father left. Jason had watched her pretend she wasn't hungry, pretend she wasn't scared, pretend everything was fine so her kids wouldn't worry. And he remembered the way the world seemed indifferent as she silently fought battles no one ever thanked her for. Sarah clicked pay, watching the total drop from $11.83 to $8.09 after coupons she had carefully saved. She dug through her wallet, praying the few crumpled bills would cover it. She didn't see Jason quietly step closer, didn't notice the way his eyes softened with understanding. Sarah grabbed her small bag and turned to leave, ready to disappear into the quiet of her car and try not to cry. But the moment she stepped away, Jason gently stepped toward the machine and picked up the milk she had left behind. He walked past Sarah and offered it to her with a soft, warm presence. Not forceful, not pitying, but deeply human. What surprised Sarah wasn't the gesture, it was the way his eyes spoke kindness without judgment. It was the first time in months someone had looked at her like she mattered. She hesitated, wanting to refuse, wanting to prove she wasn't helpless. But her son's face flashed in her mind, the way he tried to hide his disappointment each time the fridge grew emptier. Sarah's chest tightened, but instead of shame, she felt something she had forgotten existed: relief. Jason didn't lecture her, didn't pry into her struggles. He simply paid for the milk, handed it to her without a word, and moved away respectfully, as if he didn't want to take up space in her pain. Sarah managed to thank him in a small, trembling voice. He nodded, offering a quiet smile before heading toward the exit, but Jason's heart wouldn't let him leave just yet. He lingered by the store's entrance, watching Sarah walk slowly to her old car, the weight of the world visible in the slump of her shoulders. Something urged him to go back, not out of charity, but out of the belief that one small moment of compassion could change a life. He approached her again gently, making sure she didn't feel cornered, and asked if everything was okay. His voice was sincere, steady, the kind that made people feel seen. Sarah didn't want to tell him the truth, but something about the quiet sincerity in his expression broke down the walls she had built. She found herself admitting the struggles, the job she lost, the rent she couldn't pay, the fear she tried so hard to hide from her son. Jason listened without interrupting, without offering cliches or empty sympathy. He listened the way someone listens when they truly care. He told her that he worked at a commercial building across town, and that they were looking for someone trustworthy to manage front desk duties. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, full-time, and had benefits. The moment he mentioned it, Sarah felt her breath catch. She didn't want false hope, not again. But Jason wasn't offering false hope. He was offering opportunity, dignity, and respect. Over the next week, Jason personally recommended her for the position. Sarah interviewed, nervous but determined, and for the first time in months, the interviewer didn't dismiss her. She was offered the job, steady pay, stable hours, and enough income to cover rent without fear. The day she signed the contract, Sarah cried in the parking lot, overwhelmed that a stranger had noticed her struggle and chosen to help rather than walk away. Things didn't magically become perfect overnight. Bills still came, responsibilities still weighed heavy, and healing from months of stress took time. But Jason remained a quiet presence in her journey, never overstepping, always offering support. Sometimes he would leave a small bag of groceries at her door without a note. Other times, he would simply check in to make sure she was managing. He reminded her that kindness wasn't weakness, and that accepting help didn't make her any less strong. Months later, as Sarah stood in her kitchen preparing dinner for Aaron, real dinner, not the scraps she had grown used to, her heart felt lighter than it had in a long time. Aaron's laughter filled the apartment as he told her about his day, and for the first time in forever, she didn't fear tomorrow. She understood now that sometimes a single moment of compassion is enough to pull someone back from the edge. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share this video so these messages of kindness reach more people. Before the ending, please comment, "Kindness still exists." And remember, sometimes a stranger's attention is all it takes to change a life.